This presentation is going to give an overview of what you will need to do for your summer reading fiction analysis. Remember that this is going to be primarily an independent assignment, but I want to provide some lessons for you outside to ensure that you can be successful on this assignment and to allow us to practice more and be able to conference in class time. Okay, so your first task is to write an analysis of your summer reading fiction novel in which you analyze the author or a particular character's view of the American dream. So this is really focusing on the American dream rather than just, background information or a summary of your novel. As you do this, you are going to keep in mind our essential questions for this unit. One good thing that would be to do is to have yourself think about how might this author or how might this character that I'm using really answer these questions. First one, how does the American dream impact individuals? So you can think about that in respects to over time, personal identity, different socioeconomic groups, society across different generations, etc. Individuals in any kind of way. Is the success of the American dream measured by more abstract or concrete criteria? So with abstract, we're looking for like moralities, values, self-sufficiency, happiness, contentment, etc., versus concrete, the monetary material possessions or social status. How is the American dream measured differently by various subcultures, different groups? This is especially going to be present in many of your novels. And to what extent is the American dream accessible to all Americans? Your essay is going to be graded on organization, so that includes a title, strong controlling thesis, thoughtful introduction, conclusion, paragraphing, progression of ideas, as well as transitions, which we will focus on in depth. Content, obviously, strong evidence from the text that is well explained, a meaningful understanding of the text, and I will be looking that your evidence provides a variety of support for the points that you make. And then lastly, obviously, conventions, grammar and uses, punctuation, capitalization, all that jazz. Here's the rubric. This will be out of 50 points. We have 20 points for organization, 20 for ideas, and then 10 for conventions. Please refer back to this as you are writing your essay. The format this is going to take. First, obviously, you're going to have your introduction that includes some sort of a hook to really get your reader interested, a very brief background or overview of the aspects of your novel that you're going to cover that I may want to know, and then your thesis. You're going to have two body paragraphs. Body paragraph 1 is going to include 3 examples plus explanation, and body paragraph 2 is going to include 3 examples plus explanation. That's it, and then you're going to conclude by revisiting your thesis, recapping or drawing conclusions from what you've already stated, and giving a final thought to close us out. To kind of look at that a little bit more in depth, I've put together an example of what this might look like using the help. So if I was using the help to write this essay, I would introduce setting as a backdrop for Stockett's view of the American dream. That's what I would choose to analyze. My hook might be the quote from Abilene, "You is kind, you is smart, you is important. Wouldn't it be great if every child were told this repeatedly? Unfortunately, many children are told the exact opposite by so many people in society throughout their lives." So the background I might give is a review of the 1960s, the dynamic era, recognition of the inequalities for women and blacks, as well as the leaders who fought to change those injustices, just to kind of give an idea of what the reader may need to know in order to understand my essay. And then my thesis. Catherine Stockett chose to set her novel The Help in the 1960s to show readers that it is the duty of all Americans to fight for equality in order to make the American dream more accessible to all. So notice that in my thesis, I'm stating the author, I'm stating the novel, I'm bringing back that essential question about the accessibility of the American dream, and I'm showing how I'm going to prove that through the setting in the time period of the 1960s within the novel. For my first body paragraph, I might choose to talk about the racial conflicts in the novel. My topic sentence could be the most prominent form of injustice Stockett addresses in the novel is racism. Just very straight up. Example 1, maybe I would talk about the separate bathrooms for the maids. Example 2, everyone believing Hilly's lies about Minnie stealing. And example 3, sending money to Africa for charity but not helping someone in town, support her own children. So those are 3 examples of the racial conflicts within this novel. If you guys haven't read or seen this movie, you need to see it. Or read it immediately. Second body paragraph, maybe I would then take it to the gender conflicts. I would talk about with my topic sentence, equally as important though perhaps not always as visible as racism in the help, is the struggle for women's rights. Some examples I could give would be number 1, Skeeter wanting to write, her mom trying to straighten out her hair and making her appear the way she thinks men want her to be. I could talk about Minnie and her abusive husband. I could talk about Celia trying to impress her husband. Okay, and that's enough. So those 2 body paragraphs that are full of examples, that gives me more than enough to talk about the setting within this novel. So I would conclude by revisiting my thesis and talking about affecting change. So I'm going to give that in new words. In sum, Stockett uses the writing of the book within the novel The Help in order to show how one person fighting to end oppression can influence others until equality is achieved for all. I would recap by saying, in order to bring attention to and hopefully alleviate the unfair conditions for both women and blacks, Stockett relies on several core tenets of the American dream: the power of freedom of speech, hard work, and creating community. As the women write the book, they must have hope that these 3 ideals will hold up for them, even though as women and blacks they are often denied the power of speech. Okay, so within my explanation of my examples, I would continue to revisit the American dream, okay, these tenets of the American dream that Stockett is talking about. And then I would conclude with a final thought. Sometimes all it takes is one person to make a difference. It can be intimidating, but it is essential. And then my MLK quote, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. Okay, so again, that's tying it directly back to that American dream, the idea of climbing that staircase up. Okay, I hope that gives you some overview of this novel, and or this essay, and we will talk more about this in class, but I want you to continue to refer back to this presentation to look at the way that I've set up the various paragraphs and what you need to include in this essay. For Monday, September 9th, I want you to draft your introduction. Okay, so that means you need to come up with a hook, give a little very brief background info on your novel, and then your thesis. Okay, and then in class on Monday, we'll be able to kind of go through those and talk about what makes a good thesis, and then move on to the remainder of our essay. Okay, thanks.